Okay, now we're going to stamp on Thinfire paper. This is Bullseye Thinfire paper. It's done in the same manner as we did with our glass. We're going to use the rubber stamp. We're going to use the color concentrate. And so make sure you take your CC 101, shake it up well, or DB 101 will also work. Apply a line of color on your ink pad, just like you did when you stamped on your glass. And you're going to take your large semi brush or a small fan brush and work that up. Take 5 or 6 seconds and just work that back and forth to get a nice even coverage over your glazed tile so that you have a good ink pad to work with. Just back and forth. It just takes 5 or 6 seconds. Okay? Once you've got that done, just lay your brush to the side because you'll need it to rework after you've done a couple of images. So take your stamp. This is one that I got at Hobby Lobby. You can find them at different craft stores, or you may belong to some type of a club. So you're going to ink it and then stamp it and then clean it if you need to. So we're inked. That one did not have enough color in the middle. So what I'm going to do is go over here and re-ink it again. And there you can see that it's a much darker image. I like to start in the center just like I did with my glass. Press firmly all over, hold your paper down, and pull your stamp up. If you have excess color on your stamp, use the felt area to remove it just by stamping it down on the felt. Rework your ink pad and stamp again. So ink it, turn your stamp as you're working so that you don't have the same repeated image over and over and you make it fit within the space. It's better that you start in the middle and work your way out, because if you start on the outside and try to come in, you're going to box yourself into a corner. Okay, so just keep repeating this until your piece of paper is finished, and then we will decorate. Okay, here's the Thinfire paper that we've stamped, and we're ready to decorate now. One of the things that you need to make sure that you're aware of is that you need to let that dry. This is the other one that I had previously stamped, so that's the one that I'll decorate. Okay, for this one we have stamped onto the Thinfire paper, Bullseye, using our stamp. Okay, and now I'm using the color concentrates. I put just barely thinned it down, just ever so slightly. And what I'm doing is just painting the color concentrates onto the Thinfire paper. And you don't want to mess around or start overworking, because that black, all it's done is stamped on there. It's going to actually start to move on you, and you'll loosen it up if you keep piddling with it. Just put your stroke on there. I'm using the mini Sumi. I know a lot of you have those brushes. You might as well find a use for them. Okay, just one gentle stroke. Very little pressure, because you don't want to loosen up the black and have it start to smear on you. You can come back and add a second coat when that first layer dries. Or like here, I want to add some of the yellow in the middle. Okay, I'm going to do a purple one. So I'm just going to pick out multiple colors that we have in the concentrates and apply them to these. And if the color's a little thick, then just dip your brush in the water ever so little. Loosen that up a little bit, because if it's real watery, you'll have more of a chance. You can do a wash, but you have to be careful how much product is on your brush. And you've got a lot of water in the wash, and on the previous piece it did start to move some of the stamping, so this is another option, another way to color in, but you're keeping it fairly smooth which allows for it to be translucent, and that black will still show after it's fired. So constantly pick up more product on your brush, just starting from the outside, pulling in, and I constantly turn my paper or your glass, whatever you were working on, constantly move it, make it comfortable for you. Don't just set it in one position and try to get yourself like up and around. It makes it so much harder. It's so much easier if you just pull those strokes towards you. Goes pretty quick. Okay, so I'm going to continue and fill all these in with different colors, and then I'll show you a picture of it before we fire it. Okay, what I want to show you on this particular piece is I've added the colors. Let me move these back out of the way. That I wanted. This is still on the Thinfire paper. And then I came back and I added a second coat with this mini sumi in the middle of these flowers. You could pick any area, but you can see that the center of that is darker, so it has a second coat on it. Then I've added a little yellow and green inside the centers, and then this is called a Stylus. Some people call it a dot maker. Okay, it has two ends. The balls on the ends are different sizes. I'm just going to go back and accent here and there, just a few on each petal, and it can be strategically placed exactly where the little balls from the stamp is. This particular one I can't see. Don't forget you've got some over here on the corners if your design happens to go out there. And I've added the comma strokes around the design just as a filler. You don't have to do this if you want it more soft and subtle. Just stick to that one coat on the petals. You don't have to add this at all. It just depends on your style, what you like. Okay?